Welcome to another edition of the Ryan Report. Today we're going to focus on what our 2025 soybean yield potential is for the end of, as we focus on the end of August. So as I think about, our soybean crop, I've been catching a lot of questions around different diseases and similar symptomology that shows up. And unfortunately, the symptomology of interveinal chlorosis, which is yellowing in between the leaf veins, and then necrosis, which is when it dies and turns the brownish color. We have 4 separate diseases that show a similar symptomology. And they are right here on the screen. Sudden death syndrome, brown stem rot, red crown rot, which clearly is getting a lot of press right now, and stem canker are the 4 that show a similar symptoms. So red crown rot specifically is definitely one that I've heard the most questions about. It's the one that's got the most notoriety at the moment, just because it is a fairly newish disease for us here in Illinois. I think 2018, it was first discovered over in Pike County in the western side of the state, and it's slowly spread, usually via equipment, but it can be windblown as well when soils are pulverized and spores can get up and move as well. So red crown rot gets a lot of talk, and this is the one instance that I have seen of it. I have documented it in Champaign County. This was east of Urbana. And last year, whenever I looked at this, so it's got a reddish lesion right above the soil line, girdling the stem. And it was also incredibly easily to pull out of the soil, like the picture on the right. So, red crown rot, the root completely rots out, and you're able to pull it easily out of the soil because it's completely decimated the rooting system. But the telltale sign is a reddish spore. The only way to specifically tell it in the field, which you can't see in this picture, is a reddish spore that develops along the actual root of the crop. Otherwise, you have to send it off for diagnosis in order to confirm it actually is red crown rot. So once again, this year, I've sent off multiple samples. I'm waiting to hear back, but I've heard from multiple people, both on the west side of Illinois as well as here on the eastern side, that it's usually a multiple different pathogens attacking, where we've had confirmed diagnosis of sudden death syndrome, of red crown rot, and even some Phytophthora coming in here as confirmed on some of these soybeans. So I myself have not been able to physically document red crown rot, and the plants that I have had issues with, whenever I've tried to pull them out of the soil, they have been harder to pull by. So maybe they come back with a positive diagnosis of red crown rot, but I don't believe it is the sole agent. Or if it is, it definitely acted later on in the season and wasn't able to completely kill the root and cause the root rot, like what I've seen last year whenever I first noticed this in Champaign County. So moving on out, I haven't seen lots of large swaths of disease either. And the thing that's got me a little bit more interested is the weather patterns. So if I look at the last 3 years, we've got one climate reporting district here, but the last 3 years, soybean yields for Douglas and Edgar County, which sit right in the heart of my area. And as we look at these yields, we can see, we've been hovering right in between 60, in Douglas County, 68 to 70 bushels, and then in Edgar, a wider spread of 66 to 71 bushels. And if I wanted to start going through each of these years to try to understand, because I remembered both 22, 23, and 24 having drier spells, but I wanted to understand when the drought hit versus when we got timely rain. So I've got 3 different images here of Illinois as I look at, what did the drought monitor look like for the state of Illinois in the early part of September? So what did the month of August do? And then how did it improve over the entire month of August is the middle picture of Illinois. And I've highlighted the 2 counties. Douglas would be the left county with the arrow on it, and Edgar is the one on the right. So how did we improve through the month of August? Meaning, where did we get meaningful rainfall? And then finally over on the right, I just have the precipitation ranks by climate reporting district for the month of August. So as I look at these 3 in 2022, we can see that Clearly for September, we had wiped out any level of drought in Douglas and Edgar County because of improvement across the month of August. And as you can see, in the middle graph, we improved 1 to 2 classes. The light green meaning we've improved drought monitor by 1, and then the dark green would be 2 full scale points of drought improvement. And then all the way over on the right, you can see why, and that's because we had quite a bit of rain in August, and it was one of the wetter Augusts on record out of 133. In 2023, similar story. We clearly had a much more wider spread drought in 2023 as we exited August into September. But once again, rains came in August. We had a wetter August than normal, and we had a drought improvement in 2023 for both Douglas and the majority of Edgar County. Now, 2024 is where we have a little bit of reversal, where going into September, there was no drought signified in Douglas County, whereas Edgar was on that band where clearly we were starting to miss some rains. And as you can see in the graphs, in the central one, you see we had 1 class degradation for drought, meaning drought increased in Edgar County, but not in Douglas. And you can see for the climate reporting district, it was one of the drier one on records. And I think about that because, as I go back through here, our highest yielding actually was 2024, which was, the least amount of, if anything, we did not improve or got worse compared to the previous year when we look at overall yields. But in 2025, we're pushing that to the extreme where we're having one of the absolute driest Augusts on record for, the month up into August 19th, where, as you can see, Douglas County is definitely in the second shade of drought, and then the northern half of Edgar County is also in that band of second level of drought. And you see that's worsened from the months of, the latter part of July through August so far, here in the middle image. And then over on the right, as I mentioned, one of the driest Augusts on record. So to me right now, disease is not my main concern. It's more of the lack of rain and what's that doing to, we've held on to the number of pods, but more number of seeds per pod. I have seen, some 4s going down to 3s down to 2s, so on and so forth, and some abortion. And so just this lack of rain causing some of these pods to abort and impacting our kernel weights is definitely more on the forefront of my mind right now than any disease. And right now I feel like it's going to be the most limiting factor for our yield is the lack of rainfall. So that wraps up the agronomy report for tonight. We'll catch up with you later.